The following is an ESG 360 video.
Last time I spoke with my colleague Doug Cahill, we were talking about cybersecurity and the ability to address some of the threats. This time, Doug, what I'd like to cover is actually the threats themselves.
Sure.
Clearly the world is changing, it's very, very obvious, and I've heard it talked about from the perspective of there having been generations of threats, and I wondered first off, do you see that? And just talk a little bit about those generations, if indeed you do.
Oh, no question. I mean, back in the 80s when we all started to use personal computers, we had viruses that were really just they were nuisance attacks. They were just sort of disruptive, and they're really perpetrated by hackers as a hobby. It was sort of hacking as sport,
right,
all the way to today where we have different types of adversaries with different motivations, with a range of attacks. Now, different generations in the middle there, for example, 2009, 2010, we really had a front and center nation state attack that was dubbed Operation Aurora,
okay,
and that sort of gave birth to the notion of an advanced persistent threat, or an APT. And then since then, of course, we've had cyber criminals launching ransomware attacks, and we've still had some blended attacks. So now we have nation states that are using some of the attack vectors and methods of cyber criminals.
In between times, I mean, obviously the internet came along, so that meant that you went from attacking an individual laptop to perhaps attacking an application. You got firewalls, you got bots, you got all sorts of things to try and protect.
You bet, you bet. So we went from hooking up our PC to the internet and message boards through modems. Remember those?
Yes. Look, yes, I remember. Yeah.
We had the internet, and then the web, and now cloud applications, and sort of the set of controls that we've used over time have mapped to those new technologies. So,
you mentioned, you used an interesting word that I want to focus in on just for a second. You talked about motivations have changed.
Yes.
Expand on that a little, and at the same time, does that mean that the perpetrators, the people carrying out these attacks, have changed?
Oh, I think so. We have a broader set of adversaries today. We truly need to worry less about the hobbyists today. It's really front and center. We've got the insider threat, so the employee who has nefarious intent to either disrupt a business because they're disgruntled, or to steal data. We have cyber criminals that are looking to monetize things like ransomware. More recently, cryptojacking, stealing your CPU cycles, my CPU cycles, cloud server CPU cycles to conduct crypto mining.
Okay, you just made me more worried, but okay.
Yeah, so that's a new one.
All right.
So cyber criminals, and then nation state attacks for espionage, for stealing intellectual property, as we saw in the case of Operation Aurora, as I mentioned, hacktivist, so hacking for a cause, typically political intent. So range of adversaries with different motivations.
As the range, the adversaries, the perpetrators, the motivations have all changed. I remember last time when we spoke, we were talking about how to address some of these things, and it was very much, we talked about the fact that there are literal padlocks, there's virtual walls around everything. I presume, is it logical to assume that everything is, for want of a better word, accretive? In other words, everything is still there. You don't just suddenly all end up in this latest generation of challenge. You still need to be able to address all the potential problems.
Yes, with a qualifier. So we still need to have defense in depth, because the attack surface has expanded. We have different attack vectors that are vulnerable. But that's become somewhat untenable for especially larger organizations that have one of everything, right? The operational overhead of developing a set of expertise and a broad set of security controls is very expensive. And so we're starting to see a consolidation of disparate products and technologies to cybersecurity platforms.
Okay.
And this is something we're keeping a close watch on.
Okay, so that you have ability to defend against all sorts of different attacks in quick summary.
Yeah, and a more consolidated product.
Let me finish on this, which I know you hate asking, and I probably, you hate answering, and I, to some degree, am nervous about asking, but are you optimistic?
Yeah, so I mean, hey, I'm an optimist at heart, right? So it's easy no matter where in cybersecurity you work to be a pessimist. With that said, there is so much innovation, and there is so much collective intelligence that's now being shared amongst vendors and organizations that I am optimistic. I think we can at least keep pace, but we absolutely have to be vigilant.
All right. Doug, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for watching.